It's Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. I'm Ashley Pollard here for today's edition of Tuesday Talk, where we review common real estate and mortgage related terms. Today's term is redlining, and I've got lots of good visuals for you, so I hope you have taken some time to stop and watch. Let's jump in by defining redlining, which is the practice of denying mortgage loans in certain geographical areas without considering the applicant's economic status. It was really often based on racial grounds, as it targeted areas where African Americans lived and allowed lenders to deny loans in those neighborhoods. So let's rewind with a little bit of history. On the National Association of Realtors, which I'm a member of today. Every realtor in the country is a member of the National Association of Realtors. And the code of ethics that we follow was once not ethical at all. It actually encouraged and forced discrimination because realtors were not able to sell property to individuals who were deemed detrimental to a community. And without saying that, we didn't want Black people there, that's pretty much what they were saying. And we're going to jump into how redlining even came to be. So we're going back to the 1930s and 40s when Franklin D. Roosevelt was the president. After the Great Depression, his goal was to boost the U.S. economy. So he introduced the New Deal America. A part of the New Deal was to provide housing aid to boost homeownership in the country. Homeownership was not really for Black people. They wanted it to be for white people. So what happened was real estate professionals, your appraisers, your land developers, and all the sort, they would go to different neighborhoods and they would grade these neighborhoods. The best neighborhoods were A, the next best were B, the neighborhoods that were on a decline were C, and the neighborhoods that were hazardous were rated D. And the grading system reflected which areas it was safe for the lender to lend in. And this was visualized using color-coded maps. So I'm actually going to show you some of these maps in a second. But let's break down what the grades meant. So if you were in A neighborhood, you were green. So you can think of like green go. The A neighborhoods usually received funding in the max amount of 75 to 80% of the appraised value for the home. The blue B areas received up to 65% of the appraised value. The yellow C areas they received funding, but on a more conservative basis. And then the D neighborhoods were red, and they were often left out altogether, hence the term redlining. So how did this create discrimination? Well, the neighborhoods that were redlined were neighborhoods where African Americans lived. And if anyone was Black in that neighborhood, it was automatically redlined. It didn't matter if it was a nice middle class environment, if there were great single family homes, it could have been a good community. It was redlined, and that started the decline of certain communities because home ownership was not a thing in those places. So I have here a map of Essex County. Now I mostly work Union and Essex County, so I pulled a couple clips just so if you're working with me, you understand the history of where we live. So the green and blue, again, were the best neighborhoods to live in. And then the yellow and red were the least desirable. So I'm going to zoom in on a red section, which is a part of Newark. It's the D4 section, or the 3rd ward in Newark. And if you know anything about Newark, up to the right top corner is the beginning of Branch Brook Park. So you can kind of get an idea of what part of Newark this is. You can see in the lower left corner, that's where it starts to turn into Irvington. So this is a document that would be written up about the town. Now, I don't know if you can see the words, but I'm going to read some things to you that kind of jumped out at me. So there was a 70% Negro population. That says that under number 1. Jumping down to number 2, the predominating type of housing was 2 to 4 family. There weren't as many single family homes, so a lot of people unfortunately did not have their own space. Jumping down to letter K under number 2, the price trend over the next 6 to 12 months was predicted to either be static or decrease. And the rental demand was good. Well, of course, the rental demand is good because you're not allowing Black people to own homes. And if 70% of the population in this section of Newark is Black, then what you have? A bunch of renters who are living on top of each other in 2 to 4 family homes. New construction under number 3, in the past year, 0 new homes were built. Number 6, mortgage funds, none. That is redlining, folks. No mortgage funds available. And looking at the description in number 8, This is Newark's worst slum section and embraces a large area adjacent to the downtown business district. A few small portions were good residential many years ago. It is an area of minimum value and useful only to those in lowest income brackets who need to be in walking distance of work. A slum clearance, which is project housing, is underway on Orange Street. Others are proposed. And this was dated January 1st, 1939. Now jumping to another map, this is Union County where I live. And the certain sections here that jumped out at me as being red, which I can see the effects still today. Over here on the left, the area of the plain fields. Parts of Kenilworth were red lines. Over here, you've got parts of Linden and Elizabeth that were red lines. And again, when you look at these towns today, you've got a large number of multifamily homes, not so many single family homes, because that's not what was promoted. Now, as I said, today, redlined areas continue to have lower median values than those in areas previously labeled still desirable and best. Over the last 2 decades, look at these numbers. The median home value in neighborhoods labeled as best has risen 230.8% up to $640,000. The median value in areas rated hazardous has climbed 203% only to $276,000. There's a $400,000 gap in communities that were redlined like Newark versus communities that were labeled green like Westfield. Now, Black applicants in Camden, I took it to South Jersey because I'm from South Jersey. Black applicants in Camden are 2.6 times more likely than whites to be denied home loans, even after adjustments are made for income, loan amount, and neighborhood. And if you look here, I actually have a printout of the description of Camden. This is from May 6, 1932. So it was a little bit before the Newark one. But this is what it said about Camden. They rated it a C. For detrimental influences, the detrimental influence was that it was surrounded by low class of colored and Italian inhabitants. Availability of mortgage funds in Camden for a home purchase were none, and for home building were none. The trend of desirability for the next 10 to 15 years was to business, so they did not see this being a great residential neighborhood. They just saw it being more for business, and that's because Camden had the train between Camden and Philly, and that was pretty much what they saw as being profitable from Camden. Camden is still struggling today, unfortunately, but there are some efforts to make the community a little bit better. And lastly, here is a map. Home values in redline neighborhoods remain low even years later. So this, I want to say this is from like 2018, this map I pulled from Zillow. But you can see the green, again, are best neighborhoods. And even going back to before in the 90s, I mean, $200K versus a redline home being worth less than $100K. So these are things that, unfortunately, as professionals, we deal with today. And I actually heavily work Irvington. I partner Irvington with Zillow. I fully believe in us building up our communities, us giving back to the people who deserve it and teaching them. And that's why I do these videos, so that you can learn about how to own a home, how to own property, what it means, the history behind it, why it's so important, and why unfortunately, certain communities and certain groups of people do not have certain things that other groups of people have. And it's really just because of the history of this country. So that is redlining. I could go on for hours about this, but if you have any questions, let me know. If you want to talk about redlining offline, let me know. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in today. This video might be a little bit long, but I think it's worth it. I will see you guys next Tuesday. Enjoy your holiday. Happy Thanksgiving and have a great weekend.